Hello, everybody. Welcome to this October 20th. I'm calling the October 20th regular meeting of the Mankesari 6th School Board to order. The time is 6:02. Janet, roll call, please, if you would. All right, that's fine. Craig Benelli.
Here.
Rachel Porter.
Here.
Emily Hutchison Brown. Here. Victor Figueroa.
Yeah.
And Hunter.
Present.
Excellent. All righty. We normally will have a student board seat lead the pledge, so I'm giving you the heads up, it's coming. This evening, I'm going to ask Mr. Custer if he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you guys for everybody here present in person and online. For those of us that are here in person, I'd ask that you turn off your cell phones during the meeting. And if you'd like to hold sidebar conversation, take it out into the hall. As a reminder, our Board of Education is governed by our own Mankes School Board, or Mankes School District B section policies, which can be found in our updated board handbooks and on the school website. I'd like to remind everyone it's a meeting of the Board of Education in public, that rather than a meeting with the public. As a Board of Education, we've agreed to adhere to Robert's Rules of Order. The board should notice, I think the board knows, and the students, you all should notice that they are inclusive in your board handbooks. They are also now inclusive in our agenda. This year, it is a goal that we are moderating our meetings for promoting fair, efficient, respectful conversation. And therefore, I would ask that we're all mindful of Robert's rules. I will do my best to hold us all accountable and insisting on adherence thereto. It is also my responsibility as chair to pay special attention to the following. The restatement of motions and placing of said motions for vote, which will help our new board secretary, Ms. Janet Vogel, report and record such. All members will be recognized with equal opportunity for voice to be heard in discussion throughout the entirety of the meeting. I will announce the results of each vote, also helps us record our minutes correctly. And also will I will share who is responsible or articulate any subsequent actions as needed or dictated by the board voice as a whole or any official board vote. Asking that everyone raise their hands, be recognized prior to speaking along the normal course of the meeting, and we'll get through it quicker. There is a time for public participation. Comments will be heard, and if you would like to speak, we ask that you sign up. The commentary is limited to 3 minutes. I'm not going to go through the policy. There is policy that defines that. At this time, do we have any, I don't believe, but I'm going to ask one more time. Do we have any additions or changes to our agenda that we need to bring forth? All right, so do I have a motion for the approval or of the agenda as it stands?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as it stands to move forward. Janet, will you please call the question? Craig Benelli.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
And Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown. Aye. Aye. Excellent. Motion carries 5-0. We are first up on our agenda at this point in time is the addition of our new student board members, and I will be turning over the floor to Mrs. Hazelton and Mrs. McWhirter, along with Mr. Custer, to address that. Yep.
Do you want to just give an introduction of what it is, and then we'll have this?
So we started this last year of having students on our board, and they've gone through an application process. They had to get letters of recommendation, and then they actually had an interview. And these two did amazing. So we have 2 candidates, Rhett and Greta. And so, Madam President, I would like to move that we select Rhett Brown and Greta Hoffman, yeah, as our two candidates for the board.
Okay, so we have a first. Do we have a second? Okay, I'm assuming there's going to be some discussion. Mr. Custer, do you want to add the discussion in regard to the background and your role as you played in this process of selection and how that ties into why you're sitting at this table as well?
Yeah, so I was approached by Ms. Hazelton, and Rachel earlier this semester. They wanted to bring for a staff member, that be the liaison, to help the student board representatives, throughout the year in their, respective roles. And I'll be assisting them throughout the week, or weeks and months to help with outreach, to the community, help with, going over like, different agendas and agenda items and making sure they're as prepared as they can be at these meetings. But also be someone that they can just have a point of contact on a daily basis if they have questions, or if they have ideas or brainstorming opportunities. I go with these students twice during the day, and I have them actually in the same class period. So it seems like a pretty natural role for me to step into, to help both of them out.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your participation. And we like the tie.
And I would just add, one of the things that we're supporting them with, and they have a lot of good ideas for, maybe you'll in a minute get a chance to share what you're most excited for, is that at the beginning of every meeting, they will be sharing some perspective from the student voice. So they'll be out in the community and bringing forth kind of what they're hearing, what they want us to hear, what's important to our students at the beginning of every board meeting. So we're excited for that, and Mr. Custer will be helping them figure out the best ways to do that. So I would like to swear them in, if we can move to that, or.
Hold on, we need to do the vote for the.
Oh, yeah, I can't do
And
that.
do you want them to introduce themselves?
Well, yes, exactly. I didn't know if you wanted to do before or after.
Well, let's have them introduce themselves before we formally accept what the recommendation.
All right, so as you introduce yourself, your name, your grade you're in, and also maybe what you're most excited about and one of your ideas. You shared tons of great stuff in our interview, so you get to share whatever you want. So go ahead, Greta.
Okay, my name is Greta Thompson. I'm a senior here at Minkus. And I heard about this last year when I was abroad in Germany. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's like the coolest thing ever. I'm so glad my school is doing this. And then I even felt like, oh, like I'm not even there to do it. And I was like so disappointed. And I'm so happy that they're doing it again this year. Because I was so happy to see like two of my best friends doing it. And it just like, I just love that we're in such like a safe community and that the board wants to hear from us as well. And one idea I have is really just making sure that every student feels heard. Like sometimes it can be kind of difficult when you feel like your voice isn't being heard. And I really love that like you guys recognize that and you like are searching out for these students in our community to help you guys with that. And I think like that's amazing as well. And I'm really excited.
I'm Rhett Brown. I'm a sophomore at Minkus High School. I'm really excited to just get to work with Greta and do this. And one idea I have is definitely helping students be able to like pitch their ideas to the board and help them communicate with the board better.
Thank you both.
Excellent. Okay, let's call for acceptance of the recommendation by the committee that interviewed and Mrs. McWhirter. Janet, can you call to question for the board, please?
Craig Benelli.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhirter.
Aye.
All right, unanimous agreement that these two students will be representing their student body and will have a voice at every meeting. However, I will say, we will still call on you to opine on topics along the way. You don't get one opportunity to speak, you may have many opportunities to speak. So I would encourage you both to do that. And then Mrs. Hazelton, if you will I would have you stand.
I was gonna say, come on over. Come about now. Professional.
I think you just do it right down there.
I need like the original Minkus yearbook.
That would be amazing.
So I'm sorry, we can stand by this. It's just you can take the photo off the wall of the 1800s. They don't all look so happy. Okay, right here? Okay, I'm gonna read a few statements
Okay.
and you can just repeat after me. Do you want them to do them together or?
Yeah, this should be that good.
Do it together, okay. All right, as student board members of the Memphis Student School District, I will.
As student board members of the Memphis School District, I will
Represent and share student voice and perspectives with our community.
represent and share student perspective.
Voice.
Voice
And perspectives with our.
Yes.
Fulfill my roles and responsibilities as delineated in board policies.
Fulfill my roles and responsibilities as delineated in the
Board policies.
board
Mm-hmm.
policy.
Adhere to Board of Education norms during board meetings.
Adhere to board education norms in board meetings.
Support the superintendent in her role.
Support the superintendent in her role.
Respect and support the bylaws, policies, operations, and board decisions.
Respect and support the bylaws, policies,
And operations.
operations,
And board decisions.
and board decisions. I should make this short.
Conduct myself with respect and collegiality.
Conduct myself with respect and collegiality.
Honor confidentiality regarding discussions, comments, and deliberations. Honor confidentiality regarding discussions.
Or discussion, yes.
Comments,
Comments
and deliberations.
and deliberations.
And exercise my responsibilities at all times
And exercise my responsibilities at all times
with due diligence,
with due diligence,
care,
care,
and skill in a reasonable and prudent manner.
and skill in a reasonable and prudent manner.
All right, congratulations. Welcome. New board member. Right, congratulations.
No pressure, we won't make you make a statement at this point. But you're there for the next one. You'll have a voice. Okay. All right, is there any public participation? We do have one participant. Two, actually. Excellent. I just called them in the order as they were signed up, so I would like to call Ms. Shanti Savage to address the board, please, if you would. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I am here tonight in support of the mill levy override. And I wanted to use my time this evening to address a couple of concerns that I have been hearing about it. So the first one came from staff, and the concern was that only starting pay will be raised. And that because of that, teachers who have been here will not make any more money, they'll just have to pay more taxes. And this is definitely not the situation. So even if the starting pay is what is raised, we will all end up making more money because right now there's a base pay and then we get our steps on top of that. So if the base pay is raised and we get steps on top of that, we will definitely all make more money. But additionally, if the mill levy is passed, there's going to be a committee to decide where the money will go. So staff, you are welcome to join that committee. Also community members, anybody who wants to can be a part of that. So the other concern is from the community, and it's that we already pay too many taxes to the school. And so school financing is super complicated, but basically the way that it works is that the state decides based on this formula, like, okay, your school gets this much to operate. And we collect a certain amount of funds from general mills, which is different than a mill levy override. Here in Memphis, we actually pay the smallest percentage of our operating budget of any of the surrounding districts from local taxes. So from there, the state fills the rest of the pot for us, but on years where they don't have enough money, there's a line in your budget that says, okay, sorry, actually, even though we said this is what you need to operate, this is what you're getting. So a mill levy override is so important because it's outside of that. It's different from the general mills that we collect. So regardless of what the state says that our budget should be or what they're actually giving us for that year, we will get the mill levy override. And then additionally, it has to be used for staff pay. So it is earmarked for that and just can only be used for staff pay. So in closing, I just want to say that, you know, Dolores and Cortez are two communities where people had huge increases in their property values. They're places where people are not rich. They are communities super similar to us. Both of those districts were already paying more mill levy overrides than we pay now. And they both recently passed mill levy overrides beyond that because they value education. So here in Mancos, I know that people value education. I feel it all the time. It's wonderful. And I hope that people show that by voting and voting yes for 4A. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Tigo,
Going a little more casual.
you can be casual.
First I want to say, this is not about the mill, but, as an observation from last year, you're gonna have student board seats. It would be really good practice to intentionally ask the students' thoughts on almost all the subjects that you talk about. Y'all each individually get asked. It would be really good to hear more of that student voice. I'll talk about that more later in the meeting because of DAC and we had student voice, but really recognizing that this year. But I also am here because I want to take a few minutes to talk about why to vote yes on 4A matters, and why it matters so much for our community and kids. Right now, our district is the lowest paying in our entire region. Every year, we risk losing amazing teachers and staff to nearby districts that can simply afford to pay more. And as many of you know, in a small and rural community like Mancos, finding and keeping great educators is already tough. When we lose good teachers, our students feel it. When we keep them, everyone benefits. That's why 4A is about making sure our educators can afford to stay here, grow here, and continue giving our students the best education possible. Voting yes on 4A means we can offer competitive salaries that help attract and retain those dedicated people who make such a difference every single day in our classroom. It means stability, not just for teachers, but for our students and families. And here's the best part. Every dollar stays right here in Mancos School District. The funds from the local mill levy go directly to staff salaries, not to athletics, not to building improvements, but to the people who are shaping the future of our kids. State and federal funding can change at any time, but this mill levy gives us a way to take control locally, to support our schools in a sustainable way. So when you fill out your ballot, please remember a yes vote on 4A is a vote for our teachers, our students, and for our future of Mancos. Our kids deserve the best we can give them, and this is how we can do it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or anything to add or?
Well, the ballot says it is going for salaries. And like you guys both have said, we are the lowest in the region. And our tax base is also one of the lowest in the regions already.
And I would encourage people to read the ballot language because it is very clear. And I think it's on our website as well. And then to reach out and ask questions. I know, Shanti, I believe that you're leading a committee that is addressing those questions. And so I believe there's a link on the website as well for that. As board members, we are not able to opine. However, we did approve adding the mill levy initiative to the ballot. As far as student board seats go, I want to just clarify a couple of things. To your point, yes, I think that, last year was our very first year at having 2 student seats on the board. We were modeling and really utilizing the Durango School District as kind of a best practice. And it was, it's a lift to get policy off the ground, to get a process off the ground, to start somewhere. And I think, Rachel, you made kind of some, you led us to believe that like this year felt a bit more robust in even your application process and with the students. And now we have a teacher liaison, we have Mrs. Hazelton involved, we have a board liaison. I believe if I was just outside looking in, that it will become a richer program. Have to have kids to do it, and I say that for the benefit of all of your fellow students. People have to raise their hand in order to have student seats. The student seats are non-voting seats. And so I agree, we will do our very best to make sure that you all have an opportunity to have a voice. We will not call on you for a vote. That is unfortunately not allowed. I believe there's statutes for it. And then I would also encourage you as student board members to work with the committee that has been put together, that you have these resources in Mr. Custer, in Mrs. McWhorter, in Mrs. Hazelton, who can help you kind of mold it on your own. And I'm gonna say, you'll never get what you don't ask for, right? So if you want to each speak at each meeting, then you need to come back to us and say, we believe it would be best if we each have a voice. And again, work with the people that are supporting you, or maybe you take turns, or maybe you have strategy to reach your students. We are looking for you to drive and help develop what this will become. We're in year 2, okay? So we're sophomores with this, and that, you know, we've just got a lot to learn. So don't be afraid to say, don't be afraid to use your voice. That's the reason. Anybody else want to
One
add?
thing now.
Yeah,
I
please.
just want to say, the reason you're really here is to give us your student perspective. And the other part of that has to do with you reaching out to your fellow students and trying to get their perspective. So that when you come to us, you're not just speaking on as an individual, but you're speaking as one of many that you've spoken with as it relates to whatever the topic is. And so as a representative on the board for our community, I hear from a lot of community members, I hear from teachers, I hear from staff. And then I have to kind of put that together and say, whether I think they're right or wrong, I've got to give the perspective that I'm hearing. And so think in terms of that, because your role is pretty critical in helping us make good decisions.
Absolutely.
I just had one thing to add to, I just wanted to thank both public comment. I did want to add to the public, if they want more information on the mill levy override, they can go to the Memphis School District. And there's a mill levy override tab under the Board of Education. I think it's also on the front page. But there's a lot of information on there that the public can access as they're making their decision, including, I think, in terms of staff salaries, there's more information there on what would be their staff salary increases if passed this year, that they would see in their May paychecks, as well as going forward, some estimates, and then more information about the process that Shanti spoke of. It's mentioned in that, so excellent, more information.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to what would typically be our business manager report. Unfortunately, she's not feeling very well this evening. Audrey, do you want to cover anything on behalf of Christine?
No, I think the report is, she'll bring forward any of the detailed reports that she needs to in the next meeting. The student count report that I mentioned in the work session is about the same, and so that we'll have that finalized number. Looks to be down by about 7 to 9 students, so we'll have that. And that will be the impact that we'll be looking at in the December budget revisions on that. So I mentioned in the work session, but I'll mention that publicly, that comparison, that's lower than some of our neighboring districts in terms of the number down, but that seemed to be a trend across the region, but it's also within a range of, it's not a huge number, but still one that we'll have to navigate. So that's just an update on student count.
And we'll roll that topic forward to revisit it next
Yes,
next month with
yeah,
Chrissy.
it'll show up next month and then,
Excellent. We are not gonna have a student, normally we would have a board report from our students. To skip that. District accountability.
yeah, and Tigo is here in, stepped in for Sarah Rank as our accountability chair, so thank you, Tigo, for giving us the report. He's got, I also gave you I forgot to give you. He's got it on his phone.
We had a great turnout, this month's DAC meeting, about, 9 people in attendance. We started off by celebrating some exciting wins across our schools. One being our preschool through a fundraiser auctioning off some signed Eli Tomac items, recently raised significant amount, and helping to develop the Melk's playground. Some other celebrations were that the MELC, say Milk, sorry, continues to offer incredible opportunities for our students. We're seeing more community members joining DAC, which makes our conversations even stronger. We're also proud of our district's commitment to supporting different learning styles and teaching approaches. There was one concern brought up at the beginning of the meeting, that there are some breakfast items being heated in plastic packaging. So put that out there. The main topic of the evening was administrative oversight and HR accountability. The district leaders walked us through what systems are currently in place and what's being developed to better support and evaluate staff. There was great discussion around building trust, consistency, and teamwork through the process. There was also acknowledgement that our innovative status further complicates the fluidity of our evaluation process. A few ideas included developing our deans into an assistant principal in order to potentially help with the evaluation load. Using shared language for evaluations, just as Adion just said in our work session. Having consistent language is helpful. And lastly, making sure the evaluation process stays steady, even if there are leadership changes. We also heard powerful feedback from our student representatives who shared that transparency, actually, I'm gonna stop there. This was the first time that I've been at a DAC meeting where we had a student there. So just want to point that out when I say this. We had powerful feedback from our student representatives who shared that transparency around teacher evaluations can help students feel more confident and connected, especially during times of staff turnover. There were no recommendations from the DAC, as we saw that a plan is underway and we'll be patient to see how it develops. But as Adion said earlier, we're gonna allow time just to see how that goes. Looking ahead, we'll shift our focus to financial accountability at our next meeting, including what the district finances might look like depending on the mill levy outcome and how we can plan for a sustainable future. We ended the evening with appreciation for everyone's commitment, energy, and collaboration. It's inspiring to see so many voices working together for our school. Our next meeting is Thursday, November 6th, specifically to talk about what happens when we find out if the mail passes or not. Then we'll have another one December 2nd to talk about finances in general. That's all I got. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you say December 2nd to discuss finances in general, is that in accordance to those
Yes, ma'am.
subcommittee groups that we established last spring?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So your community is able to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to learn more about the budget, or I want to learn more about teacher evaluation.
And so we gave Audrey a list of so we talked at the end of our meeting, what are we talking about on our next meetings? And here are some topics that we would like to be informed about at that meeting. So those suggestions will be given to Audrey, will be given to us at that point.
So I would just point out one thing that we should make sure we're doing is crosswalking that with the board members who are required to be in attendance at those meetings through whether it be yourself or Janet with the calendar invites.
Yep.
Since the DAC meetings are not on all board member calendars, those individual highlighted committees have named board positions as attendees, plus people raise their hands. So you want to give those board members as much advance notice as possible, since you're not, I don't think that you're on a cadence of it's always gonna happen on this date. So it's up to you all to
Yep, we'll get raised on the to those you finalized meetings and Victor was at the meeting.
Yeah, you sent me that too, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just wanna make sure the crosswalk is there.
No, that's great. And the student that we had was Adam Martinez, a senior who is also interested in being a part of our accountability work school-wide, and so I just wanted to mention his name.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tita.
Student voices accountability, so.
Mhm.
All right, okay. Thank you for that. Any questions or commentary around DAC or that report from?
I will just say, since I was at the meeting, that the process that has been established through the leadership of Dak and Audrey is a very stout and informative process. I think that there weren't many questions after we got done because believe they had a real sense of what questions we had. So they came with answers, at least to the fact of where they are presently. This process, in my opinion, around the human resources and HR and supporting teachers and all of that is gonna take this whole year before it's really flushed out in a sense of what that process is gonna look like and the guarantees that those things are gonna be done consistently, whether there's a principal that is there or leaves. That process is gonna be done in a consistent, fair, and equitable manner. So I was really happy to see that.
And I'll add to that, there was, a few people who intentionally made the comment of an appreciation towards Audrey and Sarah Rink, and how their leadership is guiding the DAC. As Victor just said, it is really fluid and is leading towards a culture that invites communication.
Come a long way in the last few years, so let's keep going.
Yeah, and for anyone that's listening, we have food, childcare, and virtual options now, so to increase access, so.
That's awesome. So when you say virtual options, are you saying people could join DAC and attend on Zoom?
Yeah, they
that's
attended on
tremendous.
Google Meet, and so then they were able to also engage in the conversation, and we just, Sarah did a great job of making sure we didn't lose them, or, you know, that they
Yeah, I bet.
had a chance to.
So where can parents find those links?
Those are on the district calendar.
Okay,
So it's, if you just go to the district website and go to the calendar, you'll see that, and then it's also will be posted in the Make Us Matters.
right,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Excellent. Okay, next up is the Legislative Resolution Advocacy Committee, or as we used to say, LRC, now it's LRAC. So Mr. Figueroa, you are up.
Okay, so I am just gonna share a few snapshots of things that I felt like were important to hear. Right now, we go into we're in our third week of the federal government shutdown. Just want you to be aware that our advocacy groups that are working to support public education at the federal level and at the state level want us to be aware that they are really pushing Congress to do some work around the bipartisan education investment plan, which is on-time funding. And while the Congress is shut down, and the reason is because it hits certain areas. They want to see decisions made around increasing funding for title, the IDEA, Part B, the better serve disadvantaged students and students with disabilities. They want to see maintaining strong funding for Perkins, which is career and tech education formula grants to prepare students for college and careers. They want to, there are required grants that need to be approved, such as Title I, IDEA, Perkins, and CTE that need to be approved. And they want to ensure that Title I and IDEA remain within the Department of Education with adequate staffing to fill the statutory responsibilities. So they just want folks to be aware that those are things that they're continuing to talk to legislators about at the federal level and trying to get them to come together and make decisions on. There are two areas that I pointed out in my report. Federal grants aim to expand school mental health workforce, and really what that's about is there's a grant. And Audrey, I don't know if you're aware of these grants, but they're basically saying that they are grants that are trying that will pump $270 million federal dollars to address critical shortage areas like school psychologists, counselors, and social workers. And they have a date of when that grant is due. It's October 29th. That's all the information I have as it relates to what it is. And then there's another one, there's an upcoming webinar for why rural matters. And this is basically a webinar that is trying to advocate and educate and support rural districts. In the sense of saying, look, rural districts are very unique than city or urban areas. And so they're trying to encourage folks to come to the webinar. It's free, and it will give some strategies and talk about the strengths and challenges that rural areas have as it relates to public education. And then finally, we've talked about this from the state perspective, federal Medicaid SNAP changes. I want to read this part because it just adds to what we were talking about last month. The HR one, which is the Big Beautiful Bill Act, reduces federal spending on Medicaid and supplemental nutrition assistance programs, which is SNAP, by more than $1 trillion over the next decade. The changes could also have direct impact on schools. Fewer families qualify for SNAP, may lead to decline in eligibility for free and reduced prices for schools and school meals, which are often used to determine what kind of federal monies districts will receive. That's why this whole idea around SNAP and the federal and state of Colorado being worried about that is it means less money for us eventually. And families can't identify that, well, we won't be able to identify them in a way that we currently do. So I just thought that was important to know why that can affect us and how it can affect us. Okay, is there any questions on the legislation resolution advocacy committee update?
No?
Okay. I'm gonna move on to a short update on the Colorado Association of School Boards.
Just add one thing to that SNAP, sorry. We just received some information from the commissioner today about that we can push out to families who might experience changes in their benefits. So we've got information from her, and we'll be able to get that out to our community.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Colorado Association of School Board, CASB update. Just some dates to be aware of: December 11th to the 13th. It's the CASB's 85th annual convention. January 28th is the Winter Legislative Conference, and February 12th is the Student Day at the Capitol. All of these are annual things that occur, and I encourage folks to take a look at whether any of our students may go to Student Day at the Capitol or their CASB 85th annual convention is another convention that we all go to in support of educating ourselves and how we function as a board. CASB has a couple of things for boardmanship. There are some classes that are going to be presented for potential board members, and I put that there because these are folks that are not board members currently, but are applying to be board members. And they have some support systems on their website. And I have it on my presentation, so I believe it's public, this information that I have here, so the website is there. And basically, it just gives you a ground level, down to earth, what is it, what do you have to know, what do you have to do, what do you have to be a board member? So it's the basics. And then for us at the board level, there's boardmanship courses coming soon. And again, these are different courses that we can take to refresh ourselves on certain areas of boardmanship. And lastly, special policy update. I've sent that to all of you guys. It's basically a update on instructional, how we handle, or having policies in place around handling instructional materials, public, a process in place for public concerns about instructional materials. And then library resources, adoption and reconsideration. All of those things I believe we have in our policy to a certain extent, but I think we need to really look at that, see if it's to the extent that we want it to be, and does it meet the law that has just passed Senate Bill 25. Senate Bill 25-063. That's my report. Is there any questions anybody has?
Questions or comments? Anyone? No. Okay.
Okay.
Special policy updates, those are received and tracked and will be followed up on if they're required by law. And even if they're not, they'll be reviewed, but some are actually required by law, and Janet will be, as she rolls into her new support position as secretary of the board, will work with the appropriate board member to get those types of things taken care of. Very seldom is there a timeline on those things. It's one of those, we like to get to it as soon as we can. It becomes a cadence. Occasionally there's a timeline. I think it was last month, we passed an urgent policy that had to be an emergency provision due to something that came out around a due date from the federal government. So rarely does that happen, but we do follow up on policy on a regular basis. And I appreciate that you brought it up through LRC as well, or any CASB updates as well. So if you're not getting those updates in your emails, board members, you should be, and you need to make sure that you're getting those updates too. And that helps us help you. We're all getting. Okay, we're gonna move on to, hold on, sorry,
Linkage shorts.
yeah, I got out of my order. Well, linkage, we're actually gonna wait on, 10 because of, waiting until after the election. It is,
Closeness.
yep, so we're gonna go to Mrs. McWhorter.
So kind of timely that, we were talking about the evaluation systems, you guys had that in the DAC meeting. During our BOCES meeting, that's one of the main things that they were talking about too, is that Royce and Brandy have gone through their evaluation system and they're updating and revising all of it as well. And one big thing that they wanted us to make sure that we shared with our school is that BOCES does do the training for the evaluators in person. So we don't have to send our principals off Denver to do that. BOCES does that one. So don't know if y'all knew that. That's part of their massive PD calendar that they have. They do a lot of PD that the schools can take advantage of. Those are some things we need to look at. This is kind of a waiting game to see what happens with the reorganization. We're not totally sure where things are gonna go yet until about the end of November. So I would like to invite Royce to one of our board meetings in either January, February. That way, no matter which way this goes, we can have a good chat with her. If we do have a new board, she can come in and chat a little bit. But I would prefer January, just kind of depends on scheduling, but I would really like to encourage that to have her come. It can even be a work session where we can just kind of talk through things.
I don't have any more additional report on BOCES because I haven't had a cycle with them, but I just wanna shout out the opportunities. They've been doing a lot of training. We've hired quite a few paraprofessionals in our elementary school to support students with significant needs, and so they've been upping their training for us since we had a few new folks right off the bat, and so just supporting our programs that way, and our evaluators are all trained.
And you're joining those, you also have a role
Yeah,
in which you
monthly.
join a cadence of meetings.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's next week or it's Wednesday.
Okay.
But yes. Yeah, as the
Excellent.
superintendent, so, and we have in connection to the reorganization, if Cortez is allowed to, or given the full separation from BOCES, we have some committees that are underway within the superintendent's team, so those will be ramping up over the next couple weeks, so.
Excellent. I think anything that you can give to the board too, so that we can have insight prior to
Yes.
this meeting and be able to ask questions and discuss publicly would be very helpful,
Yeah.
when and if they give it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Mrs. Recorder Anya? Oh, good. Okay, we're gonna move on to our superintendent report. So Mrs. Hazelton, you are.
All right, I'm gonna hit the highlights of the superintendent report, which I attached, and it's also on public. Right now, I'm just organizing the report by the 3 goals around for this school year around health, community, engaging learning, and sustainable cohesive systems. So for healthy community, I just wanted to start off with some highlights around sense of belonging and joy. And so our MELC had their big crunch off. Oh, I first wanted to start with an official, also another welcome to Janet Fogel as our new HR director and jumping in as the board secretary. I feel like we've really jumped her in the last week. I mean, it's always busy, but there's been a few, we've had some great training opportunities. So I just appreciate her enthusiasm and jumping right in and learning all the ropes. So we want to just highlight that. Back to sense of belonging at the elementary school. Another thing that a structure that they have in place is their win time that happens once a week, a minimum once a week for every student, where they really get intentional support. Whether it around academics or social emotional, social needs, to get that in small targeted groups where that's really focused on what they need, and that's also a really positive time for kids. Adian highlighted the middle school student council, which under Parisha Small has really gotten a lot of energy behind it because of how student run it is, and them really getting excited about what they're doing and providing for their peers. And in similar form, the Student Alliance, High School Student Alliance, is in its starting into its kind of first full year. It started, I think, midway last year, which has been supported also by our grant. Is it?
It is the vaping grant.
Right,
And
around.
also the, yeah, it's all around SEL and supporting mental health communities.
And so it's a group of students coming together as leaders to use their voices and their ideas to build a stronger community, stronger relationships, and that sense of belonging for high schoolers. And they've got some great ideas of what they want to do to make things happen and make things in similar concert to our student council for the high school. A big highlight is we held our first superintendent's advisory council on October 10th, and this is a monthly meeting where staff members share their input, feedback, and ideas with me over lunch. And so each month it's a structure where that's rotating by kind of representative group. And so the lots of different groups represented, and basically it's a listening session for me. They came forth with things that are going well, concerns, ideas, and questions. And not only was it beneficial for me to hear and learn about the experiences of our staff, but it was also really beneficial for the folks to hear about each other. So a high school teacher hearing about what's happening in elementary or preschool, And it got really positive, for the people that participated. It got positive, response in terms of a positive format for, hearing the concerns and celebrations of our staff. So that will rotate and we'll have it again in about a month. Underway. I also want to highlight, that our, school leaders, deans, and, student support team members like Molly, and then actually Brad and Megan are gonna be joining in our next group that we've started a community of practice with the CBE around student well-being, behavior, and discipline. So working here at the school to strengthen our systems, making them more student-centered, in alignment with each other, restorative, and known by all. You know, that what's the word? Transparent and used by all. Thank you. And so that's launched. We've had two good sessions. The first one on our own, really looking at what our framework is, and then this last one with a cohort CDE with schools around the state. And so that's been a positive start. That is one of our main areas of growth this year, is on having a cohesive system and framework for proactive and responsive supports for student well-being, behavior, and discipline. Healthy Kids Survey is underway, I think, this week for our high school and middle school students, which will be a really great opportunity for. Did you guys take it yet this week? Have you taken the Healthy Kids Survey? I think it's.
You know, I
tomorrow.
take it.
Is it Wednesday? It's Wednesday, you might not know, it's yeah, teachers will tell you about it if you didn't know about it yet. And that's gonna be great information for our secondary teachers, and to hear from our students how they're feeling about school and things that are going on.
So I wanna just pause really quickly, since we have students at the table. Because last year, this was a conversation that was brought up on more than one occasion, which was, there's a lot of surveys. Why the survey? Why the in-person? Oh my gosh, they wanted us to do another survey. And I know that you had some specific commentary around the quality of surveys, that they kind of, you know, some people take it seriously, some people just brush through it. Why is the Healthy Kids Survey important? Or what can we offer to our student voices, our student liaisons, to like, what does it do? How does it come back to the board? How are you gonna see it again, right? So that you can help support the story as to the why, when all your fellow classmates say, why do we have to send out another survey? Why do we have to do another survey? Because that's what's gonna happen, is they're gonna ask you why, because they're more comfortable asking you, Greta, than they are asking Mrs. Hazel.
Sure. Well, I can speak a little bit to that. One is we're also looking at the number of surveys our kids are students are taking, and how they're taking and when they're taking them, and that they know that the Healthy Kids Survey is a Colorado survey, and it's the comprehensive survey around health and well-being. And so not only does it give good information for us, it gives good information across the state around what our students are experiencing and need in schools. I know that when they take the survey, their teachers will be sharing with them more about the why behind it. It's a supported survey. It's parents have received the information and Make Us Matters, and I think a direct emails should have gone out as well around that. And so, do you have any questions about the Healthy Kids Survey?
The other thing I would add, just because I'm familiar with it, is that it's a statewide survey. So they look at 9th grade, they look at 10th grade, and they look at the answers that students gave across the whole state. So all 9th graders across the state, all 10th graders, all 11th graders, all 12th graders. Which is, I mean, you don't get too many surveys where you can go across the state and say, this is what 9th graders felt generally about, you know, these types of questions. So I think, for me, it's always been worthwhile. I'm curious what kids think.
What are they trying to get out of our answers to their questions?
They're really trying to understand how you feel about, it's around your well-being and your perspectives on school. And so I think they're trying to understand how safe you feel, how healthy you feel your community is, what you feel like you have access to, do you feel heard in school? And yeah, so health and well-being. So they're trying to understand, for us, it's really great information as a school because we can pivot on certain things right away. If we see a big trend that students say that they feel like they don't have healthy food choices, then we need to dig deeper and understand, one, if we think we have healthy food choices, what's the disconnect, right? If students don't feel like we do. Or two, we have to look at our healthy food choices or looking to students and saying, well, what do you think our solutions are to fix this problem? So it's great survey feedback. I think we get it within about a month.
That's a really great point, and I'll bring it up one more time. All of the collective voice often results in some sort of addressing of question or a change. If the voice is a collective voice, without the voice, without kids participating and taking it seriously and saying, this is what we need, or this is how, these are things that. This is an honest voice. It's not, I think, is it anonymous? Oh, yeah, okay, so it's anonymous, so you can make honest statements around need. And so if they're doing this across the entire state, like they're looking at ninth graders, you may see change come about through state funded state legislation and funding that pours into X, Y, Z, whatever might come out of that survey. So it's a collective voice that goes all the way up to state level. So it's a big deal.
And if I could add to that very thought, when I say it's state, it is all through, but you'll get a report for this district.
Correct.
And that report will share specific things about the well-being of our students. And that's really important to us because it helps us then say, we need to put more support in mental health, or we need to put more support in counseling, or we need to different things. And so, kids taking it seriously, answering the questions is really important for us to respond to. And then that report will be presented by the superintendent back to us. And when they say to us, we're really struggling in this area according to this report, then we're gonna have, when we talk about budget in March and April, May, there may be funds that we need to put toward that we would have to decide. So it hits a lot of things.
So it's an important survey. And your voice really matters.
Yeah.
It really is heard. I think that's the thing I want to lift up for our students that may not normally have been here to hear the before. Why? Because now you'll hear it from your teachers, your fellow classmates may ask you questions, and now you can give a more robust answer. And that's really what your intention should be as student board members, is being able to be a connectivity between this table and the rest of your entire school district. Okay, sorry, Mrs. Hayes.
No, that's okay.
Interrupt on
It's
that.
great,
I wanted
and
to
it is
lift
great
up.
data. That's something that our student alliance would want to be looking at as well, because that's their goal. I'm trying to make sure that I include in the superintendent's reports, all of the professional learning that's going on. So almost any given week, there are teachers and staff that are working to improve their practice or gain new skills. And so I'm trying to get them all in there. Some of these might have happened at the end of September, but a lot are new staff. It's hard to not be coming on as a new staff, and something that we're looking at is how do we really support them in the onboarding process, giving them the information they need. So they've been engaged in a lot of different things around this last week, PBO, and restorative practices, just to highlight, talking to one of our teachers who's new to Magus, but not a new teacher, was coming back and saying how much he appreciated the PBL training and giving him some new energy and ways to think about instruction in different ways. So it's, even if you're not a new staff, that's been great. Ongoing CPI training, which is around de-escalation and crisis prevention. And I mentioned the community of practice with our CDE. So those are all ones around that community. Wanted to also make sure I'm bringing in some highlights around engaging learning. Actually, both of these Adion picked up on in our presentation around the Exploring Dignity project with Russell Dysart, his English class, around the, they had multimodal lesson around, for second graders, around what dignity is, but if you were to deconstruct, his unit of study, it's pretty extensive in terms of, being concept-based, having that project-based approach in terms of being very student-centered. So want to highlight that work going on, and then the Honor and Remember concert, not only focusing on our veterans but also the connection to Dia de los Muertos happening this time of year as well. So to remember, to honor and remember. And so if you want to come to that, it's on November 5th at 5 p.m. with a spaghetti dinner and 6 p.m. concert. And our fifth graders are really excited to be a part of that and to really bring that all forward. More professional learning going on around project-based learning, CTE equipment training, our elementary, shout out to our elementary math teachers. All of our elementary teachers are math teachers, with the work that they do with our iReady. And so they continue to have professional development on some of our Fridays to do that well. Southwest Learning Lab, PEBC. I heard a really great story about some of our students who are accessing, having some new devices for communication device for our students with communication disabilities, touch chat, and just heard some really just how that having that device alone can completely change a child's day for their ability to communicate. So that was powerful that we had access to those that would come through BOCES, I'm assuming. And we also had a group head to Durango around our MTSS frameworks in terms of increasing systematic supports. And finally, around engaging learning, Adion did not, I should have shouted her out here, but we're really focused on building out the instructional coaching model and the instructional coaching cycles. So already underway, a variety of coaching opportunities have been provided for our teachers, including peer-to-peer observation and feedback cycles where she goes in and gives some feedback, co-planning and designing units of study, and working with our new staff and checking in. So we're working on building a system for that so all teachers can access that instructional coaching in different ways. Quick jumping to cohesive systems and structures. I think we talked with the DAC meeting around, oh no, I jumped. Sorry, it's a different evaluation. We did talk about our evaluation system and structure, which is why I didn't drop it in here. I'm going to slow down for a second to give an update on the evacuation reflection and our next steps. So I didn't put it all in here, but as you know, we've had a debrief process and a place for people who have offered their input on how the evacuation of September 24th evacuation went and how we can improve. It was an opportunity for learning. Our safety team met last 2 Fridays ago to review the event and all of the feedback. So we looked at everything that had come in as a safety team, as well as the safety team's perspective. And I can say that overall the evacuation event, as I'm putting this in quotes, was considered successful as the community remained safe, calm, and followed procedures and directives from the safety team. So overall, it went as well as you would probably say it could have gone in the situation that it was. However, I want to make note that this was a really stressful event, even though we knew pretty early on that it wasn't a dangerous event, but it taxed our staff, students, and parents in a variety of ways. So we had a lot to learn. I don't think any safety evacuation we're never going to be able to fully mitigate for the stress that it might create, but we can improve in a lot of ways to make sure that that is kept at a low so that we can keep people safe and calm. So in the work that we did as a safety team, the areas of improvement included, we named communication, preparedness, role clarity, reunification, individual student needs, and technology and communication devices as our key areas for improvement planning. And so that team spent about a half an hour starting that improvement planning where we broke into small groups and already have kind of beginnings of action plans underway. And we'll meet again soon with a goal at the end of November to have those action plans about what we need. Some of them don't need massive overhaul, it just needs tweaks, clarification, and in some cases, actual devices. Do you want to add, Will, any details on that?
No, I think, not too much. I think you summarized that pretty well. You know, as part of that safety and security team, we just want to make sure that like everyone is being heard, our staff members are being heard, and want them to know that like we're taking their feedback seriously and that we want to take, like Audrey said, those actionable steps. That way, if there's ever a situation where it is a more serious situation in terms of threat to students and staff, we're just the most prepared we could be. I agree with Audrey, like I would consider it, especially putting quotes, like successful. I'm really happy it was not a situation where lives were at immediate risk. But certainly still very stressful for a lot of staff and students and just everyone on campus at different levels of stress. But I think we handled it well and on the fly, the best we could, especially because we had a lot of people off campus that day. A lot had been on and off campus that day or coming on and off campus throughout the day. But I think we handled it pretty well. And I'm glad I just want to highlight, we also gave, and Audrey, you might have said this, but we gave staff a chance to get feedback from students as well, just to make sure we're kind of covering all those bases.
Should you have had students at the board table earlier, you might have been able to have them sit on your feedback, but I know that we all heard plenty of feedback as well. And as in any major event, I actually commend you guys for digging in and figuring out what didn't go the best. I mean, that's how you learn, right? We're never gonna be 110% in everything we do. I mean, you do it every year with your curriculum and how you're teaching, and so it's the same process. I think it's great. I'm glad you came up with a few things that you can tweak. It's good.
Yeah. I introduced Janet, but I just want to note that we've started to build out a transition plan. We know that Janet has a critical role around our CTE program and as well as our grants program. So already we've met with Chrissy to kind of build out how to make sure the critical work that's happening now gets done, and how do we start bringing some of our grants work back into the business office as well as to the individuals that support the grants, and identify where we need new eyes on things. And then we have a meeting with our CTE team and school leaders in high school in a few weeks to really look at what the needs are, do a bit of a kind of a review to make sure that and Janet will continue to support, and then to identify how do we keep that coordination going so that it can continue to thrive and grow. So it's not just pull the plug and left to die. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Janet, on.
No, I think you said that pretty well. There's just a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up on my end, and again, just identifying who's gonna take on those roles in the future. So as Audrey said, it's probably gonna be an ongoing process. It's not something that can just be cut off right in the next couple days or weeks. So it's gonna be an ongoing process.
And I put in the note, but I'll just say publicly, all HR and grant matters should go to Janet and Chrissy, keep Janet CC'd on that, and then CTE would go to Janet and James Hughes, the secondary principal. So then. I want to give a quick SRO update. Did I give this SRO? Well, I'll just give a public SRO that update, which I also gave for the deck. That's I'm not going to repeat the deck update. So we currently do not have an SRO on site due to our previous SRO resigning from his position with the Memphis Marshals. The town is still looking for a marshal to fill the position of town marshal. Which means they may or may not find someone that comes with SRO qualifications as well the qualities that we might want for an SRO. So in the meantime, I'll be sending out an invitation to reconvene the SRO committee and any other interested folks, parents or community members or staff to look at the SRO memorandum of understanding MOU and which is where when we have an SRO and create an addendum to that, that pretty much just names, what do we do when we don't have an SRO that's directly assigned? And how do we, and really articulate that partnership with this, all of the work that's been done already with the SRO committee to say, because Brad and Justin are still supporting our school and have a presence in our schools and are working to make sure that we're a part of their cycles and partnership, but we just want to better define that. So that we kind of, you know, we have it defined for when they are here, but we don't have it defined for when they're not. And two more things, the election, we had our folks, I just also want to note and say publicly, we have a school board election on the ballot. And we also, there is another issue on the ballot around school lunches. So there are 3 education issues on the ballot. You can find information. We'll keep posting it back to the top of our page on our website in our Mancus Matters. And there's been a number of articles in the Colorado Sun about that. And for any of those, if they want actual information, they can reach out to me. And we'll continue to push out the information that we have to our community. And but that is now only about 2 weeks away. And finally, I didn't put it in there, but I'm working to be able to present kind of a first quarter 100-day report at the November board meeting where some of these things works in project progress. I'll be able to present in more nothing's final. It's basically like, and from here, what I've learned, where I'm recommending some priority areas of focus for my work and for the work of the district. I will be presenting a lot of that kind of draft work to the staff this Friday morning for their input and feedback around some of the key areas, as well as, you know, as we look at some of the action areas and work to be done based on what I've been learning. I'm finishing up some listening sessions with teachers and staff, and the next couple of days I'm going to be shadowing students in all the schools between now and Friday. So I'm looking forward to that time too. Not you, but I might be in your class. So yeah, so that's where I am with that, because we moving out of the learning stage into more of the doing the stage, so that the 25-26 school year, people feel like we're moving forward together and have some key prioritized action items. And I think that's what kind of way back to what Audia was sharing. And if you look at the some of those goals, is those are we're not going to be able to do it all at once, but we can prioritize and keep things moving forward and really prioritize specific action areas to make sure we're moving.
If you don't mind, would you also give us, just for the benefit of the public who are in attendance and watching, a bit of an overview on the strategic plan objective report?
Yeah.
That was presented to us. We spent our entire work session on this. And we do need to also vote to accept this report.
Yeah.
So Audrey, if you'd give us a summary, please.
Yeah, so the strategic plan report, this work session and embedded in here was around strategic plan item 3B, which is articulated as the Mancus School District teaching staff teach and assess portrait of a graduate competencies through a student-centered model. And so those graduate competencies are those 6 competencies. This is a good test for me to do it real quickly. Integrity, team player, growth mindset, growth mentality, practical skills. Did I say that one twice? And don't say it. Problem solving. And there's one more. Civic mindedness. Here I am at a board meeting, civic minded.
I actually, was thinking about this earlier because we have our portrait of the school district, which needs to be updated, but we do not have, so we'll need to print but the newer off and hang them prominently.
And I think what came from our conversation, and I, just for the public to hear, is that there's a lot there that is really around who we are as a school district. When you think about a student-centered model, and that we're not just working to develop students who have the reading, writing, and math skills, but that they also have the learner and social skills to do that well in groups and public and their families, and come together. So Audion was able to share that that's connected to our engaging learning model, our healthy community model, and noted that we have a lot that's in development around needing a common language and really building that scope and sequence from preschool to grade 12. So that as students are traveling through, doing things that are student-centered, that they can talk about how they're growing in those competencies and connecting that to their student work. A good example would be in my world history class, I'm sharing a paper that I wrote, but then I'm also naming how I had to use some problem-solving skills to get the information or interview members of my community to be able to write that paper. So connecting the work. We have a lot of work to do in this area to really build it together, but what we do have is extensive work and embedding of this work in terms of students seeing themselves in their classroom, becoming parts of their community, learning about different character traits, portion of graduate skills, to develop that as they go through. So I said earlier, the soil is really healthy, and now we just need to build the framework together. So that's a really quick overview. Board members, do you want to add any highlights from that?
Actually, I'll make a motion first and we can put it in discussions. Madam President, I move that we accept the strategic plan 3B.
Okay, I have a motion. So we have a second. We have a second. What is commentary or discussion prior to call vote? Anybody has anything to offer?
I just said there was a lot of information on it. I thought this was a very well put together presentation. For this one, it is a very large scope, and I thought that both Audion and Ms. Hamilton did a really good job putting it together.
Mr. Now.
I really appreciated that there's a more of a focus of making the presentation of the portrait for graduate and our strat plan, just all of it more dynamic, so that it's not just a rote discussion of something on a page. It's actually a living presentation that that can really bring people in. I mean, it was captivating. Really appreciated that.
Is that slideshow available on our website?
It should be. I'll check it to make sure that.
If not, it will be.
I think that the slideshow, I think what you're speaking of, Tim, is the one that really shows how it's coming alive in the classroom.
That embedded.
Yeah.
No, because it was very well, the presentation via the visuals is really well presented. If anybody has a question about this part of our strategic plan, that explains it very precisely.
Yep.
So-
It's under the on target. I'm gonna it is in there under the on target and leading the way slide, but I'm gonna add a click here.
Good.
Or just
Perfect.
actually what I'll do is add I'll separate it out from that on the website so people can see that. And we'll probably just share it out on our website and on our cameras around the monitors around the school anyways, just because it's a great opportunity to share all the great work that's happening for kids.
I really would encourage us to, I think there was so much good stuff in the Google slideshow that presented what we were doing in classrooms day to day, moment to moment. I would encourage you all to have conversation around kind of spreading that throughout and sharing that ability to share with, a more ongoing presentation of such. It's pretty cool to see what some of these kids and students and, grade levels are accomplishing and the fun they're having and how it kind of all weaves together. And I think others would love to see that on a regular basis. So maybe that's something we could, that I would encourage you to look towards for next year, but there's a lot there. And then I did like the detail outside of the slideshow, just because I think it helps us follow along the transition from where we were evaluating through a rubric and grading a strategic objective into, okay, well, let's just look and see how it's actually happening, right? And that I think is where it gets deep, because you can highlight a ton of things. And so it was a job very well done. A lot of time went into it, and I would encourage parents and community members to take a look at that. I greatly appreciate that, so.
I would just add, that I like your portrait of the fact that the ground is fertile. I think the structures need to really kind of be put in place, and part of that structure that I, commented at work session was really to, think in terms of what we expect our students to know, be able to do. That'll help develop the structure, for us to say, how are we doing in this area? Fully. But the slideshow and all the things there are really, impressive to see, as it relates to the different things that we're doing.
A suggestion was just made, so I'm gonna put the students on the spot. You guys got to go through it. And you've heard all of us with our feedback, so would either of you have any insight, suggestions, like I liked this, anything that you saw in relation to the presentation that was given earlier, that you either appreciated or would change, or anything that was, did you see yourself in any of that work? Were you in any of those classes?
I really like to see the visuals. I think that was really important. And I think they learned more about portrait of a graduate and advisory. Because I'm a senior, I don't have advisory. But I think it's important to educate the students about what portrait of a graduate is. But I think maybe also having activities that they can feel like, oh, I do know how to speak in front of people. Like, oh, I am being more social. Like, them having opportunities and activities to be able to see themselves in portrait of a graduate, I think that's really important.
Anything you have to add?
I agree with Greta. I also think it would be really cool if we highlighted what students put in after school and how that helps them like show portrait of graduate, because so many kids in Mancos do athletics, do multiple athletics, and do other sports outside that are offered by Mancos. And I think if that was highlighted there and how hard our students work, it would definitely bring a better example of how we portray ourselves as a student of event.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and definitely all things doable.
That is a really good point. This is why I know that Mr. Hunter. I know. We have a motion by Mrs. McWhirter and a second by Mr. Hunter to accept the Board of Education or the strat plan presentation to the Board of Education for 3B as accepted. Janet, can you call to question, please?
Craig Benelli.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Jenna Porter.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0, and the plan is accepted, or the presentation is accepted. Although it is not, it was misplaced in our agenda for a link, I am going to highlight the fact that the board has been presented with policy JLCD as well as JLCD-E, which is in regard to administering medicines to students, and it is under first review. Therefore, you will see it in the second review at the next board meeting. We did receive all that in our work session agenda, so that we have copies of it, we can review it. And then we will second and adopt at the next meeting, after discussion. So just want to make sure that that, has a place. Does anybody have anything to say about it before I move on?
There were no changes except for the permission, and that was from our school nurse.
Correct. It was submitted by the school nurse. I had suggested, that we look at the entire policy so that we can note that the policy had been reviewed in accordance with the exhibit on such and such date. Even if no changes are made, it's good to note that those reviews are being made so that all eyes are on policy. So it'll be re-presented, at the November, meeting.
I just had
Okay,
a couple of questions. We did bring up, from Ms. Hibbs to check with the nurse on a couple different things,
Yes.
and we're all good with what we have.
Yes, I did. I just wanted to mention that I checked with the nurse on like the school and the teacher. And he said it's really not necessary for the nurse and the doctor because it's going back and forth between the nurse and the doctor. It's really not a student-based, a teacher-based document that whenever he then takes that and creates the full workup. But he said if the board wants to keep it there, it's not causing any problem. It's just something that the doctors sometimes catch them up on filling things out. So that was what he said about that. I think there was, the rest of it, was all per like standing order type instructions. And so this was the guidance based on what he sees in common practice. But he didn't have a strong opinion. He was like, well.
okay, I am going to make a statement so that board members can follow with a motion and a second. Since we have a little board book disorganization here
Yeah.
going on a little bit.
See, I put it below, not.
It's okay.
Sorry.
So I'm just gonna call it out because it's the best way to do it. So in our consent agenda right now, it looks as though we only have an A. A is policy, so it will get presented under the consent agenda as A. B will be our minutes, C will be our check payments, no, we do. And then D will A, B, C, and then D will be recommendation for district staff. So we have 4 consent agenda items, A through D. If anyone wants to make a motion and or call out either A, B, C, or D, the time to do one or the other is now.
Well, I'd make a motion, we accept all A through D as consent.
All right, we have a motion for the consent agenda. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second from Mrs. McWhorter. Is there any discussion necessary?
Nope.
No? Okay, Janet, will you please call the board members to question?
Ray Benelli.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Hi.
Tim Hunter.
All right,
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye,
Rachel McWhorter.
excellent. The consent agenda items A through D pass 5-0. As far as upcoming calendar obligations go, we do have a work session on November 3rd, followed by a Board of Education meeting on November 10th. That's going to be 2 fairly crucial dates due to the mill levy and the elections. We also have the CASB annual conference coming up in December. And want to just be aware of that. There will be additional items that the board is asked to attend based around that board of election outcome. Regardless of whether you have new people at this table or not, there will still be trainings and other items that the board's asked to attend. And then as far as future agenda items, Mrs. Hazelton, you did call out that you are working towards a superintendent 100-day report. I do expect that you will also have, I'm gonna put this ball in your court, election updates coming in November as well. Around board member seats as well as the mill levy. And it may even behoove us to update the public on LL and MM as much of what was on that ballot this year was in relation to this school, in relation to schools and this school district specifically.
May I please ask as far as the upcoming calendar dates to have invitations sent to both of our new board members as well as Mr. Custer, that way then they have it all in their calendar, please.
So, when you ask that, are you asking about, like board meeting invitations or CASB or both or all or?
Everything that we want them to be at.
Okay, so as a board, we need to discuss and agree. Do we want to have Mr. Custer? Have you discussed, are you attending board meetings, work sessions? Is that something that is occurring?
We talked about the board meetings.
Yeah,
Um,
do you want to talk about that, or do you want?
well, go ahead, I haven't started.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we talked about, the two student liaisons being at the board meeting.
Mhm.
And we discussed me not being present at every single one. Unless the students want me there to be in support.
Got it?
So like tonight, I thought it was valuable for me to be here, so
Sure.
it's for them. I would likely probably wanna be at the next one since they're getting their first student report.
Mhm.
To be there, and then going forward, if Rhett and Greta would like me at specific ones. That's every single one throughout the school year, and they want that support, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
But if they are like, no, December's fine, or January's fine, or if they have a special report and they just want extra support there, I'll be there.
okay. And did you all have a discussion as well around work sessions? Because work sessions are where sometimes the work gets done. That's why they call it work sessions. So that's where you're having more of that open conversation versus the formality of a public meeting. So are you all attending the work sessions? Is that something? And then same thing with the work sessions, I'm going to assume that you all are gonna play, okay. So if that's the case, then are we in agreement that we will send invitations, but we may or may not see you at every session? And then I wanna be very clear, because in the past, historically, we've been very forgiving in that when there is a student activity that is based around a class or a sporting event or a life event, you're not gonna be in trouble because you miss a board meeting. You do need to give advance notice. There's actually policy in place, and it's in your board book, that you actually do need to give advance notice. Rhett knows very well that at times I will show up on a screen because I might be in a different state, but that is attendance. So keep that in mind in case anything were to come about. And so we are okay with sending invitations, but being able to work through our student liaison, Mrs. McWhorter and Mr. Custer, and then Audrey, I know you've played a big role in that as well.
So I just have one
Any other
question in
questions?
relation
Yeah,
to
please.
this.
That's why we're
Last year,
discussing.
last year, we said students could leave if it goes beyond 8 o'clock.
8, correct.
So is that still in place?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that, but we
Okay.
will remind you.
It is in place, but unfortunately, one of those students is held to attend the entire meeting, whether he likes it or not, until he drives. And I'm sure he's gonna advocate for that coming March. He's like, yes, please. Okay, so yeah, I think that's a fair point. The other thing we have not discussed, but we'll put it out there, is there is an opportunity for CASB, but I think we as a board have a lot more discussion to have there. I also know that my son will not be able to attend because you will be at Cheer State, which I'm sure he'll choose over this. Cause it's fun.
I'm gonna put it on the November 3rd work session.
Yep, I agree to be,
Finalize that.
we'll probably,
We'll look at all of the,
what's the impact?
It's a month
what's the
out,
cost,
so-
those things. Okay, so with board's agreement, then I will direct, you, Mrs. Hazelton, to, find wherever it be appropriate to have those items added to students and, Mr. Custer's calendars as needed. One other piece of information that I just kind of want to highlight is that you do need to consider, or we would need to consider, and this goes along with Rachel's ask, the board. The students themselves last year were a part of the communication process when things were shared via email. And some of the feedback I actually just got today from a former student, board member was, sometimes that stuff got lost because I have a lot of emails. So maybe there's maybe we can engage Mr. Husky around a way that we can, I don't know, title the email, something like, board information, especially, and there are, emails that will go to the students and there are some that won't. So I'll let you guys,
yeah, well, and that's why, great, figure
Figure it
out
out.
teacher liaison too, to make sure we're.
but the communication is the root of all things. So we have to figure out how to be very, very clear in all that communication and keep you guys on the, and Mr. Custer, you as well, on the forefront of that.
I just wanna add one thing to this, if you could help us remember again. What emails we're using, if it's personnel or private information, that only goes to us as board members and not the student.
Yeah.
And
To
which
clarify
one
it.
go to students?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, especially as we think about board book usage and setting that up in a way that's.
Correct. And I actually think it might even be helpful to have Mr. Custer have a board book login. Because he will need to be able to oversee or have insight into that with his students. And without that login, you're gonna be a little bit like, wait, what are you talking about? So we probably need to look at that too, so. And in the past, it was elected board versus board, but let's make sure that Keith clarifies
Yes,
that.
we'll get all that sorted out.
There may be some updates then that come back around that hit your board handbooks, which we all should have, so. We will make sure that that happens. Okay, so that's the direction from the board consensus, or the board voice. I will ask Mr. Benally if he will, handle our board debrief today.
Sure. All right,
I gave it to you in print, so
yeah.
I will do that.
I didn't have enough work.
Look at you, you're so good. I love
Uh, did you learn anything new tonight?
it. You can copy what? Do you want to go?
Let's do it open. Probably a lot quicker.
Yeah, well, I learned, I guess I was the DAC representative for the board. So, what I learned was that, the process that was presented last month as it relates to the new process that, goes deeper into presentations from DAC. I went to the last meeting and I learned that this is really a much better system to really go deeper and to, be able to get questions answered that we really want answered. And so, I praise DAC's leadership and Ms. Hazelton's leadership around, how that's come about and what that looks like actually when you're in the meetings. Yeah.
Were you surprised by or unprepared for anything during this meeting? Rachel?
Other than not knowing that the link was embedded, so it was really good to see that during the work session to see what our kids are doing. And how their work around portrait of graduating really is coming around. Yeah, other than that, I thought that just reading the packet ahead of time really, I mean, it was a very thorough superintendent report. I feel like I really knew what's happening.
Kim, were you able to communicate and be understood on what topic?
Yes.
You were even in board books, I was so proud of you. Did so good.
This
Great.
board crossed into operations during this meeting, so and when and how? Unbelievable.
I think we did pretty good this meeting. I would just remind us that we're, one board will agreed upon one board voice. So that we're providing that direction with one versus, it can take longer when we're all trying to talk and it's only gonna get deeper because now we've got 7 voices at the table, so that gets a little harder, but I think we did great. That's my opinion. Anybody else?
I agree.
Okay.
Next 2 or for everybody, are there any decisions made by the board at this meeting that need to be communicated to the public?
Well, I think our strat plan objective is, for sure gonna be communicated, and then you're gonna call out that little piece, so we know it's linked. For those of us that didn't
Yeah,
get that.
put it in Make Us Matters
Yeah.
as a way to get that out.
And I think that there was some, from public presentation, there was a need for some of the relay of where to find a bit more, clarifying space for the levy and, just to call that out again. And that's Make Us Matters.
These guys.
And then, of course, yes, our student representatives.
Yay, again.
And is there any follow-up needed by a board member, including any written communications or meetings?
I do not have any.
So,
No, but I think that after the election, there needs to be some kind of recognition of the committee, the election committee.
Yes.
we can talk about that as well. Next year.
That's gonna be a
Cool. Madam President, I move to adjourn the meeting, please.
We're not done yet. One more. Policy?
Oh,
Policy.
hold that thought.
Board hear anything that requires new policy, revision of policy, or review of policy, and follow-up.
I will say yes. We know there's a special policy update out there. So there will be board policy at the next meeting that will fall under that. And because there are 3 that are required by law that we need to look at. There are actually 4, so there could be 4 at the table. And so we will follow up with that and start to kind of peel away at that, which is a lot, but we would probably find more policy. Next month. Okay,
Second it.
okay, now, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
We have one motion, we have a second. Janet, can you please call the question for adjournment of the meeting?
Mike Finelli.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter. Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Rachel Hunter.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. It is 7:42.